You get the impression by listening to environmental activists that coal is killing the planet and all life on this planet. And perhaps there was a time back in the early days of coal that it was. But a lot has changed since the early days of coal. What if now, in fact, coal was saving lives? This is the Powder River Basin, where most of America's coal currently comes from, and much of it is about to be sent to China, though environmental activists say that sending coal from Wyoming to China would be nothing but bad. So let's start with the mining process. Is it naturally just a given that every coal mine out there is an ecological disaster?
We mine coal responsibly. We have coal electrical power generation that's done responsibly, the Dry Fork Station out north. The reclamation efforts that we have are the best in the world.
We've allowed our political system to evolve into a way where we just want to turn our country into a park and nobody has jobs. In Pittsburgh, you had to take 2 shirts to work in the morning because it was so polluted in Pittsburgh that by noon you had to change your shirt because the shirt you were wearing was so dirty, and you could never wear white in Pittsburgh. The buildings were black with soot, and they had to steam clean those buildings to get them back. What happens is there's a curve that a nation goes through where you meet your energy needs, energy becomes ubiquitous. When you turn on a switch, electricity comes. And then after those needs are met, then you use more energy to reduce the pollution on the other end. SOx, NOx, any of the other pollutants that you see. For China to clean up their environment, they need to use more energy, not less. And so denying them coal keeps them in a dirty environment. And I will tell you that the sky was gray, and my eyes burnt the whole time I was there in the 3 cities I visited.
They have to lower their pollution. They have to create new energy. They're growing their economy at an astonishing rate.
You know, I learned a new phrase while putting this together. Energy poverty.
Energy poverty causes people to die, and it causes people to die for obvious reasons. If you don't have refrigeration, you can't preserve your food, and you starve to death. You don't have air conditioning in the summertime, heat in the wintertime, electricity for communications and information exchange, electricity to run all the nice machines at the hospital, electricity for education, or all of our education is based on electricity usage. Because you don't have energy, people die, and there are curves that you can graph. Frank Clemente is a professor at Penn State University. He's got a website, energyfacts.org, and he's got a lot of great articles there. One of them talks about graphing energy usage with infant mortality. And if you graph it, as energy usage increases, infant mortality drops exponentially. The graph is it's an exponential downward curve. And the more energy you use, the lower infant mortality is. If you graph standard of living with energy use, you find a better curve. The higher your standard of living is all based upon the use of energy. You environmental extremists have blood on your hands. They're just covered by the green gloves of environmental extremism. Somebody who has the arrogance of being able to go over and plug in the laptop and it charges because electricity comes, denying somebody who has no electricity or limited access to electricity, who doesn't have water treatment, who doesn't have air conditioning, who doesn't have information infrastructure, denying them the right to have that.
And so, of course, the argument is, well, we're just going to switch to wind and solar power, and that's where we're going to get our energy from.
Especially if everybody's driving electric cars. How many windmills are you going to need? How many solar panels are you going to need? And by the way, you still have to mine for the rare earth minerals to get that stuff out of the ground.
5,000 pounds of copper for every electric generator.
Well, and there's a reason, as far as the rare earth minerals, that they call it rare earth minerals. You're not just getting that anywhere. You're going into some pretty environmentally sensitive areas, and you're ripping the landscape apart.
It's not a panacea. One 40-acre coal-fired power plant generates as much electricity as one 150,000-acre wind farm. And the coal-fired power plant doesn't need to be backed up by gas generation when the wind doesn't blow.
A town in China had a bunch of environmental protesters show up and shut down a facility that was making solar panels. Reason why? Because of, again, rare earth minerals are needed. There's a reason those are called rare earth minerals, and you have to bathe them in harsh chemicals in order to get the minerals out, and that was getting into the town's water supply and killing the people, so the protesters showed up and shut the thing down.
Look, you're not going to hear this information by turning on the nightly news. You're going to have to go find out for yourself. There's a lot of information out there at your fingertips.
The first place I'd go to start getting educated is energyfacts.org, Frank Clemente's website. We need to start our own political campaign of educating folks in Washington and Oregon. That includes letters to the editor. It includes going and protesting the Seattle City Council if we need to do it. Not everybody in Gillette's running around with black lung. As a matter of fact, there's been one black lung case in the history of Wyoming coal mining, and that was somebody who worked underground in Illinois and moved to Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
Showing pictures of a coal-fired power plant belching out steam, because that's what comes out the smoke stack.
I'm trying to train myself to call it a steam stack from now on.
But whatever's coming out of that is generally steam. The air at the basin plant is cleaner coming out than it is going in. People have a cause that gives them an emotional hook, something that they can love, and they get emotionally intoxicated, and facts don't mean anything. The only way to combat that is to say, well, your emotional intoxication is killing people, and here's why. Your ignorance is hurting people, and they may not be people down the street from you because you have all the advantages that you could ask for, but these people don't, and this is what you're doing to them. Coal, oil, and gas make up the bulk of our energy production in this country. Solar and wind equal the rounding error when you round off the coal
low
or the
single
oil.
digits.
Yeah, less than 1% for each one of them. So when you look at that stuff as a panacea, you're just living in a fantasy world, and you can look at the charts and see. And in the last 10 years, it's gone from way less than 1% to less than 1%. So this huge push toward these alternate energy sources isn't getting us anywhere near the power that we need to consume to survive as an economy. And the more expensive we make the power, the less competitive we are in a world market. And we are competing in a world market. This current administration frustrates me because they're not planning for anything other than the demise. And there's a picture I took, and I guess you told me it went viral. It's a picture of the president in a communist uniform with a caption that says, "A man for the people." Mm-hmm. And they sell that at the gift store at the Great Wall of China.
Glenn, good morning. It's Matt Mead calling.
Hi, Governor. I was hoping you would call in today. Last 6 minutes of the program. How was your trip to China?
Well, it was a fascinating trip, and I think it was worthwhile. We've got a long education process with the folks on the West Coast in terms of what coal means. You know, one of the things they keep throwing out there is coal dust, and we're in the process now trying to gather up information on what coal dust is and what it isn't, and I think we can make some progress on showing them what the science is.
Governor Matt Mead on the phone with me right now. I wonder what kind of problems you're also going to come into as we try to move the coal to the coast with Lisa Jackson, EPA, Ken Salazar, Interior Department. Have you been talking with them?
Yeah, we have been talking to them. I think that, but I would just say that has been more of a brief conversation. I think that they, their fallback is what the governors of the West Coast states are. I mean, I think that's where the battle is on the West Coast states, is the acceptance or rejection of coal coming to those deep water ports. But I think that we have some good science that I think we can provide an education process that hopefully in the end will provide an opportunity. And it's not just for Wyoming, it's jobs and opportunities for people in Washington.
I'll come right out and admit it. Coal had a very dirty beginning, but as our technology improved, we've cleaned it up to the point, well, I've been living in this county for 2.5 years now. There's a lot of old people here, born and raised in this county, surrounded by coal mines and surrounded by coal-fired power plants. No one's got a third eye, no kids are being born with tails, nor do we have cases of cancer and emphysema and lesions on skins like you've been told. In fact, it's one of the cleanest, healthiest communities I've ever lived in. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and don't count on the press to clean up the mess that they in part have made. If we want to tell the truth about coal energy, we're going to have to do it ourselves.